All right, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Backstage Podcast. We're here with my good friend Saul Polo. You may have caught him on the no, not the backstage. This is the backstage. You may have caught him on the car ride show that we did during the campaign. He's here. We're going to talk about the campaign, and we're going to talk about the election, and we're going to talk about everything that happened. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, George.
Thanks for coming. I was following the results, man, and it was so shitty for you, fuck. And I was like, God damn it.
No.
And look, the truth is that off the bat, we knew that it wasn't going to be a good campaign for the Liberals. And I think we even had that discussion off air, obviously. And I'm like, fucking Laval, man. Are we going to be able to hold on to at least a couple? Usually, traditionally, Chamedy is usually a safe seat. So I had my eye on a couple of seats in Laval, and it just sucked, man. It was just horrible.
Look, it's part of the game. Honestly, this. I knew this right off the bat when I first ran 8 years ago, and when Mr. Couillard asked me to run in Laval des Rapides, and I think I told you this. I knew right from the beginning it was going to be a tough shot. So being reelected for a second time, for a third time, it was going to be complicated. I mean, when you look at the numbers, 4 years ago, we were at 25% on the provincial level, and I was able to get 32% of the vote in my riding. This time around, we were at 14%, and I was still able to get almost 29% of the vote. Look, I think I overachieved what usually any type of any other candidate would have done in my situation. Yeah. So I know it sounds like a prix de consolation, but at the end of the day, we gave it all. Over a year ago, when I sat down with my staff and my team, and also when I discussed it with my family, we said, look, if we're going to do it again, let's have fun. And we surely had fun. I mean, we did a lot of different things. I think I mentioned it to you in the car. And we had fun. We had more support than we could have expected. Almost 80 volunteers that supported me. And a lot of public support. I had 9,500 votes, where 4 years ago I had 10,600 votes. So I lost.
Not that big of a difference.
No, and I lost by 1,000 votes.
Yeah.
So you could say, and the CAQ. I mean, congratulations to the new MNA of Laval des Rapides, but she had more or less the same number of votes that her predecessor had 4 years ago. So. That's basically when you look at the numbers. I lost more or less 1,000 votes. It could have been much worse.
But what's interesting though, Saul, you're 1,000 votes short, but it's not as if those votes went to the CAQ either, because they had similar numbers the last time, which pretty much means that your voter stayed home.
Yeah, and when
the Liberal vote just didn't come out.
Yeah, when I look at the numbers, look, George, we identified more or less 5,000 strong Liberals and about 1,500 soft Liberals. And we estimate that more or less that 2,000 of those 6,500 people stayed home, didn't go out to vote. And that's unfortunate. I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
You go and ring to their door, you call them, you approach them through social media or through regular media. And then at the end of the day, I mean, it's up to them to go out to vote, if they feel like it's important to them. So you can't do much more than that.
We had that conversation also in the car, obviously off record. And, there's many things that you can say a lot of things you can't say, because most of it is speculation. I mean, what's going to happen if you win? What's going to happen if you, like, all these questions are useless in that context, because it's like, you're in the middle of a campaign, dude. Let's just wait for it to get the finish, and then we'll be able to clear our minds and analyze. What the fuck happened during this campaign? It was disastrous for the Liberal Party.
Look, I can honestly say that it's a complement of it's a mix of different things.
Yeah,
not just during the campaign, but also before the campaign, and yes, the beginning of the campaign, I would say the first 3 weeks of the campaign, we can't say that it was due to XYZ party. I mean, we put it on ourselves. I mean, the fact that we're the last party to have 125 candidates, the whole thing about the 125th candidate confirmation. Le bilan financier of our different engagements électoraux. I mean, we brought that upon ourselves, and we can't look anywhere else than ourselves.
Yeah.
This is what the party will have to deal with. We'll have to analyze. We'll have to discuss. not just the caucus, the leader, the party members as well. There's a lot of things that the party will have to take in consideration to look at what went wrong. And I personally think that those first 3 weeks, if we would have managed the beginning of the campaign differently, we might have finished the campaign at maybe 17, 18, 19% of the vote, which is where we started the campaign at. And maybe today we could have 4 to 5 more M&As, including myself.
But Saul, you're saying that as though the campaign had so much room. Like, if we hadn't, screwed up the 2-3 first weeks, 2-3 first weeks, it's like 2/3 of your campaign. It's done. Like, there's no room for error in an election campaign, and especially in a campaign where beforehand that it's coming. The elections now are fixed dated in Quebec. So, in 4 years, like from today, there's going to be another election. So in 2026, in October, we were probably looking at an election. So all parties know this. They know that, okay, in 4 years, what do we do? So let's work backwards now. So what do we need to get prepared up until that day? I'm not so sure that was done at all. And I don't want to point fingers at anyone specifically or, anyone at the party. I know, we know them all personally. And yeah, they worked hard. Was it hard enough? I don't think so, my personal opinion. But to be making mistakes like this, and it's fine. Look, everyone expects to make mistakes and for stuff that are unforeseen to just come up during a campaign. That's normal. I mean, we all know the game. But like you mentioned, 3 weeks. And in my head, I'm laughing because like, you were saying it as though, the first 2-3 weeks didn't go well, as if it was like 3-4 months campaign.
George, and I think we were in the car when we met. I think we can manage to maybe, we can manage 1 week off. The first week.
You can take it easy until everything falls into place.
Exactly. But 3 weeks, it's tough, man.
Oh my God,
it's really tough. And look, the facts are the facts. I'm not making this up. I mean, I can't look at it with avec des lunettes roses and say no, we were perfect. No, we weren't perfect. And I'm honest enough to say, all of us have a part of the blame on that. All of us had something to say about it. Obviously, I wasn't in the party's head office. I wasn't campaign manager. I wasn't part of the leaders' team. But we all had a say into this. But it's beyond just the first 3 weeks, George. I mean, why were we in a position where when this campaign started, we were at 18%? I campaigned, we knocked on 16,000 doors in my riding, and obviously there's some debates that hurt us, and that still hurt us today. Bill 96 hurted us, La Loi 21 in a way hurted us, and there's different issues. So these are different issues and topics that the party will have to look at it very closely, and will have to find a new positioning, because we can't be a provincial party with only 9% of the francophone vote. This is huge, man. I mean, a party with 155 years of experience of existence. Yeah.
I mean, look, there's ups and downs, and there's definitely been ups and downs in the past as well, right? Parties evolve, ideologies change, there's new dynamics that come into the picture, and we saw that this time around, right? There's a conservative party that I'm sure had some sort of impact on the liberal vote as well, because forever the liberal party occupied a major part, if not all the part of that conservative vote, as long as they weren't separatist, right? It went to the Liberal Party. So the dynamics are different. But you're right. I mean, everything leading up to this election seemed to just not go the way that it should have gone. And, we often say that, the next election starts the day after the previous one, right? So in 4 years from now, I mean, technically, day one after this election, you're already preparing for the one after. I just don't know how much of that we did. And again, we can't just put the blame all on Dominique Anglade because she wasn't there. We had a leadership party, a leadership campaign. COVID came in the way. There was all these things that happened. But I don't know. Is it just an excuse? I don't know. You're looking at the numbers, and people that have been involved in the party for a very long time, like yourself, like myself, and other people that may be listening or watching, I can assure you that no one ever imagined that the Liberal Party would be this low in either in support or in seats. It's definitely one to forget.
And look, I'll put it up front. I support Dominique Anglade, but it's beyond the leader. In my personal opinion, it's beyond the leader, and it's beyond the last mandate. It's beyond the last 4 years. I personally think that things started to slip downhill for the party by the end of 2015. We had maybe a honeymoon of about a year and a half with the whole population. Yes, we did la réforme des programmes, and some people call it l'austérité, but we had la réforme de retour à l'équilibre budgétaire, etc. But by the end of 2015, I think that something broke between the connection between our party and the general population. I can't say the overall population, but something broke, especially with the Francophones, the French vote. And we haven't been able to reposition ourselves properly. And I'm part of it. You know, we had internal discussions about, you know, la loi 21 and la langue and this and different issues. But we need to address those issues going forward, especially over the next few months and maybe the next year and a half, before we start repositioning ourselves for the next election 4 years down the road.
I'll be honest with you, man. You look very, very calm. Very obviously, it's tough to take in, you know, a punch like that, right? I mean, nobody runs to lose, you know, unless, I mean, of course, there are some ridings where you know offhand that it's going to be harder than others. But especially if you're the incumbent MNA, it's never easy. But I remember, you know, just now you came in, you're like, oh man, I have so much more time now. Do you feel, I felt it and I wasn't even elected. I was a staffer and I felt it when that chapter turned. I was like, oh, like I felt like I could breathe better. Are you there already or not yet?
I'm starting to get there.
Yeah.
But okay, let's come back to the first part of your question. I could be pissed, you know, like anyone else. You never run to lose.
Yeah.
You never go into something saying, you know what, I'm comfortable about losing. No.
Yeah.
Yes, I give it my 200% with my staff. The last year and a half, we sacrificed everything. I mean, the last 8 years, I know you follow me. You know how active I was on the ground, not just in my riding, but in the region.
Yeah.
And yes, I could be not just disappointed. I could be frustrated. I could blame a lot of people. But at the end of the day, you know what, George? Let me just put it this way. And you saw me, and you and I started in the same party, more or less. You as a staffer, and myself as a volunteer, quite active volunteer. And I look at my last 17 years, because it's not just 8 years, it's 17 years. You know, I started back in 2005. And I say, okay, you know what? Yes, I lost. But did I gain more than what I lost at the end? And definitely the balance at the end of the day, la balance is a lot more positive than negative. Would I wish that I would still be the MNA of Laval des Rapides? Of course. I love what I was doing. I sacrificed a lot. But you know what? It's a chapter. I mean, we all know on n'est pas des fonctionnaires.
Yeah.
It's a privilege.
Yeah.
And the average number of years that an MNA is a member of the National Assembly is more or less 3.5 years, 4 years. It's a mandate. I was able to do 2 mandates. So I'm trying to look at the positive more than the negative. Yes, privately, I'll express my opinions. Privately, I'm going to, I'll express my suggestions. And I want my party to actually get up from this particular position and look forward and reposition itself, definitely. But no, at this point where I'm at, I'm actually trying to do stuff that I wasn't able to do for the past 8 years. Even looking at my personal situation, personal health, just trying to travel and spend more time with the family, friends, and you know how it is, the kind of sacrifices that we do.
For sure.
And so that's where I'm at. So I'm looking at the next 3, 4, 5 months, just taking some time off. Relax. That's the benefit of having prime de départ, which is more or less a year off, you know, of income. And then maybe by the end of the winter, that's where I'll actively start looking for something else.
Yeah. You know, for me, the strangest thing, was like I was like in this situation where you're taking your severance package and you're home, and you're just so used to waking up super early and then going to bed super late because of the work required to do the job, and then it was like 10 o'clock, 10:30, and I was still in bed, waking up, and I was like, "Wait, this is not normal. It's not natural." It felt good, but at the same time, it felt strange. Like I shouldn't be in bed at 10:30.
But you know what I did over the past week or so? I started to actually unlike or unsubscribe myself from different, different Facebook pages, just to stop getting so many notifications on my phone, you know. But one of the things I can't avoid is I still have to wake up at 7:05, just listen to the Connect Politique or 98.5, and then Radio Canada. I can't stop doing that, you know. It's like part of myself, you know.
Right.
So, but it's a transition, man. And there's like Monsieur Charest used to say, there's life after politics,
exactly.
You know. And before politics, there's family, and there's other stuff. So that's where I'm at right now.
Hold on, I think I might have pressed the button. No, okay, we're still recording.
Great.
It's true, and you know. But the thing is that, and it's what you said, right? I mean, you've invested so much time, and you know, people got to know you as an elected official. But for the many, because we're not few, that knew you even before that, you know that the contribution you've given to the party and to just, you know, the public cause of being in politics is way bigger. It's what you said, right? I mean, you were involved since 2005. You did 2 mandates. Yes, it was a privilege, but there's all that work that you did behind the scenes that very few know about. And of course, the ones that are, you know, the insiders and the ones that are involved in the party obviously do. And I don't know. I hope for you it will continue. Obviously, I mean, I don't think you can disconnect from that.
Look, I don't think I really enjoyed myself, and I think I left a positive image, and not just in my writing, but actually in Laval and in the party. If the phone rings, I'll listen to it. But I also have to look, George. You know the kind of sacrifices we do. At one point. We need to recover that. We need to go back to a certain balance, you know? And it's a lot of personal investment, especially. And I mentioned it to you, the way that I really enjoyed doing it. You know, being someone on the ground in Laval, taking regional issues and working on it. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's I have to look beyond just that privilege and see. But if the phone rings, why not? I mean. It could be provincially, it could be at different levels, whatever. My phone will always be open, but I also, you know, I'm 47 years old. I'm not that old. I'm not that young. I also need to look at different options right now, and just to say, you know what, I need to think about more about myself than just the cause. Because, like you said, you know, I've invested myself. It's not just 8 years; it's 17 years, and sometimes politics. I don't know how to say it in English, but la politique est ingrate.
Yeah, it's ungrateful.
It's ungrateful. So you invest so much, you sacrifice so much. Yes, you get a lot, but at the end of the day, you say, okay, why am I doing all of this? You know, and so all of those questions have to make sense at one point.
You know when the alarms start ringing, when people in your close circle, like your close family, you know, your significant other, your friends, your family, they start asking, it's like, dude, where's your life? We haven't seen you in this long, or, you know, you missed the last 5 birthdays, or whatever the case may be. And you know, you're so involved in what you do that you're blind, right, to all these things. And then I think for me, that's what I realized. It's like, shit, like, what have I left kind of behind? What have I not been focusing on? The good thing is that you realize that, at least for me, that it was such a microcosm, right? And it's like you were so involved in it, you thought everything revolved around it, when in reality, nothing revolves around it. It's nothing. Very few people even know who the prime minister is, let alone the ministers or their own M&A. Like, that's a reality that we're so addicted to. But the truth is, on the ground, very few people are aware. And for me, that was a wake up call when I realized that. What do you guys mean you don't know what the Bill 21 is? No, right? Exactly. Like, what do you mean?
Exactly. And what's sometimes it's frustrating, George, is. And when you see people that consume information or politics through alternative channels.
Yes.
That don't necessarily really portray or present the whole picture.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow, man, why am I doing all of this? You know, it's like we think that people consume, you know, they're reading the Gazette or La Presse or Le Devoir. Or,
like you are every single day,
you know,
fully informed.
And then exactly. And then they listen to the radio or to the TV. And then people they just see whatever, they base their opinion based on an Instagram video, you know, or on a YouTube video. And then you're like, wow. And so then so that's part of new ways of doing politics, if you could call it, or having to manage all of this different type of information. But so you question yourself. It's like, why am I doing all of this? You know, and look, like I said, I enjoyed. It's a privilege, and when you're in it, there's such a rush, and I know you know this. There's such a rush because you feel like you're making a difference, that you're supporting your constituents, or that you're making a difference in bills that are being adopted in the National Assembly. But c'est une bulle. C'est une bulle.
Oh, big time.
C'est une bulle, et pour certaines personnes, c'est comme un monde parallèle. Et I'm just going to say this. When we did the postmortem of the election with the different candidates after the election, I told the new MNAs, I said, don't get mistaken about what's the number one priority. Don't get mistaken about thinking that going to the National Assembly is now your first priority. The National Assembly and la colline parlementaire est une bulle. And you think that that's the first and foremost first role that you have and your first priority, and it isn't.
Yeah.
It's when you go back to your writing, when you talk to your people, your community groups, your different institutions, and you identify those issues, that's where you pick up their expectations, and that's what you bring back to the National Assembly, not the opposite thing, not the opposite way.
It's amazing that you say that, because, and you know, it's the mistake that is very often noticed. People think that they're there to bring the message from the hill to the people. It's the opposite. You're there to bring the message from the ground to the House, to the Parliament. And you know, look, we were talking about before we were recorded. You know, Premier Legault now has 90 or 91, 90 MNAs. I mean, controlling that caucus, definitely not easy. And when you are, you know, one of those 90, and especially if you're new, automatically, you know, you're going to be shoved somewhere, you know, in the shadows of the, you know, in the back benches somewhere. How can you even possibly bring forth anything that your constituents are saying, right? So, it goes back to what you're saying. You are almost automatically fall in that bubble where it's like, this is the reality. I'm just here. I got elected. Thank you. It's a privilege. And, you know, everyone just regurgitates those lines, right? I think it's very few that actually have the courage to step up and say, look, guys, this is what's happening in Montreal. Shut the fuck up. Listen. You know what I mean? Like, not a lot of people have that courage. They just go there and they just follow. You know, it's the current. They get in and they follow, and, you know, and it takes maybe months, if not years, for them to get accustomed to all that reality.
I can tell you, it's probably going to take him a minimum of a year and a half, if not 2 years, before the new MNAs, the fresh new MNAs, will understand the different dynamic and what's their leverage and what's their role and how they can actually use that leverage and different people, not just openly within the caucus, but also behind the doors, who to talk to, how to. And one of the things that I really enjoyed over my second mandate was I've really felt, and I saw it in my first mandate, that sometimes opposition MNAs have actually more power and more leverage than backbenchers. And it's unfortunate to say, but it happened to me, and I'm saying it very honestly and very avec beaucoup d'humilité. You know, what I feel bad about some of the MNAs right now is they with 90 MNAs, you know what's going to happen. They're going to occupy not just one half of the Salon Bleu, they're going to occupy half of the other part of the Salon Bleu.
Yeah.
And there's going to be MNAs sitting on the other side, and there's going to be ministers looking at them, and they're probably going to ask themselves, "Is he part of our caucus?"
Yeah.
You understand? You understand? Because
why is our guy in opposition?
you understand? So they're probably going to look at each other. It's like, okay, is he part of our group or not? You know, that's bad because at the end of the day, and where are they going to do their caucus meetings? In Le Salon Rouge? Because la salle des premiers ministres is not going to be big enough.
Where are they going to do them? That's a good question.
Look, I was part of a caucus of 71 MNAs, and we could barely do it in the salle des premiers ministres, and we were at full capacity. So with 90 MNAs, forget it. They're going to have to do it in the salon le salon rouge. There's no other room big enough to accommodate 90 people.
That's
on top of la garde rapprochée du Premier Ministre, the different staffers that are part of the that can actually assist at the caucus. So it's going to be tough, and it's going to take them 1.5 to 2 years. It's going to be tough for those new MNAs, not ministers, to actually have their projects move along. Yeah. And there's only so much the government can do, and it's a majority government that it's very present across all the different regions except for Montreal.
Well, he still has 2 MNAs on the island. You can't say that he's not there. No, technically, he's present there. Yeah,
I agree, but he will have to please a lot of people across the whole province, and that's going to make it interesting. So I anticipate, when you look at la sermentation du Conseil des ministres yesterday, you could see that, you could hear people already saying, you know what, there's so and so that wasn't there or attending, and some of the people weren't clapping as hard as vividly as others in the room.
Yeah, but that happens all the time. It happens all the time, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because one thing that I took away was him coming out even before the swearing-in ceremony, him announcing that, look, there will not be any infighting in the CAQ. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I don't know who's at each other's throats back there. You have some big names that came in. I'm thinking of Martine Biron and Bernard Drainville, Pascal Derry that came in, that automatically, I forget her name. She was a director of our CIUS. Jeez, what's her name? She's the minister now for seniors. Yeah. God damn, I forgot her name. And it doesn't matter. Damn it. And it doesn't matter. So, big names coming in. Yeah. And obviously you can expect that the people that are there already in place feel threatened. They're like, shit. Because there isn't one minister before the election that did not feel threatened about Bernard Drainville, for example, being a candidate. It's automatic. Like, okay, he's coming in. Whose seat is he going to take? So I don't know what's happening in the caucus. Obviously, the larger your caucus, the harder it'll be to manage people's expectations and to keep everyone kind of calm. And, already today in the news, you have speculations that Éric Duhem is kind of reaching out to the people that may be frustrated.
But you know what? It's not just a caucus. It's also going to be in the Conseil des ministres.
Yeah.
30 membres du Conseil des ministres. And what you're saying also applies to the Conseil des ministres, where you have established members of le Conseil des ministres, let's say Geneviève Guilbeault, Simon Jolin Barrette, François Bonnardel, established ones, obviously, Fitzgibbon, Éric Girard, etc. And then you have some new members of the Conseil des ministres, like Bernard Drainville. And Bernard Drainville is not.
Oh, he's going to take his place.
I know.
Yeah.
Martine Biron and others that will join as well, and that will want to have a say as well. So. And so that's also going to be an interesting dynamic. And obviously, when you see what's happening with le super ministre, ministère de l'économie, and this new committee being put around, and then you ask yourself, okay, it's going to make it interesting over the next 4 years. And in my opinion, the last 4 years with the COVID, the government
they had it easy. I think
they had it easy for a couple of years.
Like the situation wasn't easy, but it was like a select number of people that took care of that crisis.
Yeah, and the population. I mean, one of the things that we can take away from the election is the population said, you know what, let's give them another chance, because they weren't able to do a full mandate with with everything that was needed to do a full mandate. But now they won't have the COVID as an excuse for not being able to deliver most of their engagement.
The question then becomes, okay, you won. The mandate is clear. We have no more excuses in the way. Now it's time for answers. The problem, and the way I see it, is that the opposition is as weak as it was during the first mandate. So who's going to be there to check, those balances, to do that, to check that government and to actually step in?
That's where the media has a role. That's where the media has a role, George.
Yeah, but the media is playing the game of whatever is popular and whatever is going to appease the listeners, right? Look what's happening now. You're looking at the media. Everyone is focused on whether or not Quebec Solidaire and the Parti Québécois were going to swear allegiance to the king. We found out this week that they didn't. Okay, now what? So that becomes a question mark, right? Right after the campaign was done, the attention was on whether or not Quebec Solidaire and the Parti Québécois were going to be granted official party status. So it seems that on both those big issues, the weight is on Dominique Anglat's shoulders. I mean, from the very beginning, I remember her saying, look, we're not going to talk publicly. These are negotiations that have to happen. Premier Legault came out and said, yeah, I don't have a problem. I'll grant him. So he boxed her into the corner. So now it's really up to her. What are you going to do? This guy wants to give them. He has no issue. So now it's your thing. Those parties, there's a huge question mark now on whether or not they could sit in the parliament with, having completed only half of their oath. They're missing the other half. Yeah. So they're just betting now on that month that they have before parliament reopens so that they can talk and try to discuss amongst themselves to get an exception or what. I don't even know what they're looking for. To me, it's all childish. It's like, dude, you're looking for a party status. You're looking for an exception to come and work without having completed your oath. What else do you want, man? It's like an open buffet. What do you want? Pick and choose and don't worry about it. So I think it's not going to be easy. Dominique Anglade already has had a very difficult couple of weeks after the campaign, obviously having to take in that defeat, which paralyzed her, the party, the members, guys like the ship sank and it took a lot of people with it. And now she has to, while battling that front, she has to think, okay, how can I deal with this issue now and not be the mean person, right? The person that is going to be ungrateful for not authorizing them or giving them official party status. I think the opposition is going to be busy in so many other things that, like you said, I mean, I have a feeling that at least the first year, I don't think much is going to happen. I don't think the government is going to be checked at all.
Well, look, this is where I think media will have a role in a say in how people continue to portray, because I don't think that in this second mandate, maybe in the first quarter, maybe the first year, they'll still give them a, it's going to be the honeymoon of
for
super majority.
Yeah, it lasts about a year or so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, when I look at the official opposition, they have a lot of their plate, not just as being the official opposition, but they'll have a lot of on their plate about looking at what happened during the election, what's going to happen with the party going forward, with the fact that the party has 900,000 less of funding per year. So they'll have to downsize in terms of staff, in terms of offices as well. So they have a lot of questions that they need to ask themselves. Un vote de confiance that
in about a year.
In about a year, as per the constitution of the party, a vote de confiance has to happen within the first year after the election, and so you're right. But at the same time, when you look at the election in the months leading to the election, the media played a strong role into cornering the Legault and cornering the CAQ on a lot of issues. And
nothing stuck, though.
I agree. But trust me, I think that maybe an extra week could have changed a lot of things, because we saw, especially in the second part of the campaign, that Legault, his character, his bad character came up openly. He did a lot of mistakes. And yes, when you look at Legault yesterday at la Sammentation du Conseil des Ministres, it was a different person, a different individual. So yes, the oppositions will have to get back on their feet and play their role. as far as the party goes, a lot of things are on their plate to actually take care of.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the party and the leadership, because obviously this is a thing that's going to come up for discussion. You did mention that you're supporting Dominique Anglade, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, you had support her even from the very beginning. You were part of her team. But before we get there, let's say you were now elected, okay, and you have to decide: do we give these parties official status? Are you in favor or are you not?
It's a tough question, George. I hear what the population is saying. My opinion is that if we want to change things, let's look at the bigger picture and let's do une réforme complète, okay? And not just put the onus on the Quebec Liberal Party as being the one that has to give away some question times or un certain nombre de questions, because that's what's happening right now. And people are focusing, and the pressure that's being on Dominique or on the party right now is that they're focusing only the pressure on one thing, and it's the Quebec Liberal Party. But there's a bigger debate that we're avoiding and that the government put away, and it's in réforme parlementaire. If we want to go that way, let's look at the whole picture, not just whatever pleases the other opposition parties or the government. And that's where I understand the position of my party, of my ex-colleagues that are there, where they're saying, you know what, why is it only on us to accommodate where there's a lot more things that we also have to address, including that part. And that's where my position is not yes or no. It is, you know what, if we want to go, we want to open that debate, let's open the whole debate and not just whatever pleases the opposition parties right now.
I'll tell you one thing. I don't know how Dominique Anglade is being advised. I don't know what's going through her head. But the fact that you can take advantage of whatever quote-unquote benefits you get as an opposition party, I think could really help her. And they could really help the party. And I'm sure that in that calculation that she's making, that weighs a lot, right? Of course, on the other hand, you have to deal with the fact that if you don't give them official party status, because, I mean, rules are rules, and they didn't meet the thresholds, whether it's the 20% of the vote or the 12 elected MNAs, it's bizarre because it's like you're telling these constituents that your voice doesn't matter. And it's coming from a party that within the 4 that are elected in the parliament, they have the least amount of votes. I've never seen anything like this. You have the party that got the least amount of votes that has all the pressure right now on deciding if the other 2 parties that got more vote than that party should be recognized as parties. It's a mysterious thing, and I don't want to be in Dominique Anglade's shoes, but and
I completely agree with you. That's called the distortion of our current political system, and the distortion is not just affecting the number of questions that the opposition parties or the number of le temps d'antenne that is being given to QS and to the Parti Québécois. The distortion is also based on the fact that there's a governing party right now that received 40%, more or less 40. What is it? 37%?
Yeah, around
whatever.
There. Let's say 40. Yeah,
40% of the popular vote that have 90 MNAs out of 125. That's also part of the distortion. And so that's why my personal opinion is if we want to address this particular issue, we need to address the whole issue and not just handpick one that, yes, there's pressure because l'Assemblée va commencer à siéger d'ici quelques semaines, fin novembre, un mois. And yes, but there's a larger debate that we're avoiding, and right now we're asking one particular party to accommodate opposition parties, and we're leaving away a bigger debate.
And I think that's also part of the complex calculations that must be currently happening right now over at the Liberal Party or in Dominique Anglade's entourage, because guaranteed when it comes to electoral reform, obviously the CAQ wants nothing to do with it, but the Liberals either. I mean, think about it. They got the least amount of vote, but they secured 21 seats. They're in opposition. I mean, you can use the argument to say that, look, I mean, we have to look at the whole image, and like you said, let's amend everything and not just the specifics. But if you do that, then you also accept that perhaps next time around you'll be left with 3 people or maybe even 0. Who knows?
And individually, personally, I accept that, and it's up to my party, myself, or whoever's going to be there to do a better job.
Yeah,
to do a better job, because the fact is we didn't do a good enough job to have enough support to be a bigger either opposition or have a bigger presence at the National Assembly.
Yeah.
So those are the facts. So if we want to change the rules, let's change the rules looking at the biggest picture, and let's start from there, and let's do a better job next time around.
What do you think? I just want to come back to the support for Dominique Anglade. I mean, when you look at the numbers, and again, I agree with you that the problem didn't start with Dominique Anglade. I think Dominique Anglade inherited a party that was already declining. There was already a huge disconnect that had happened with the people on top and the base, like the party members. And that all happened with Philippe Couillard coming in. And this is nothing to say bad about Philippe Couillard, because when we look at the track record, the guy did spectacular work. However, maybe it's the style of politician, maybe it's the people that he had around him. We immediately felt there was a disconnect between, the cabinet or the premier's office with the people on the ground. We felt it immediately. And it's not only me. At that time we were talking with other staffers, and it was like, what the fuck? Nobody's returning our calls. What the hell's going on there? Everyone is ignoring us. Who's in charge? I don't understand how this happened, because the same experienced people were still there, largely. A lot of them left.
I'll give you one point.
Yeah.
Agent de liaison.
Yeah.
Agent de liaison. People might not know this, but an agent de liaison in a cabinet has an important role. An agent de liaison is someone that makes sure that the cabinet is in contact with different cabinets, with the different M&A's office, be it government or opposition, whatever. And also an agent liaison has a certain contact with different people that are part of the larger family of our political party. And one of the mistakes that I can definitely identify and pinpoint is that when my party was in government and we started to do la réforme des programmes, we said, well, we need to set an example. And we need to cap the number of staffers or reduce the number of staffers that we'll have in cabinet. Yeah. And one of the positions that was never put in place, even at the second part of the government of the mandate, was d'agent liaison. So, yes, we could call some staffers. There's people that from my office that would call in the cabinet, and there were some staffers that didn't have any connection with the party, any roots within the party. So, like you said, calling someone and saying, "Look, I'm so and so. I've been associated with different people in the party and government for the past 15 years, and they don't know who you are. They don't know your history, and they don't know how to really, service you properly." That's where I felt like a disconnect happened.
No, I agree, and I think, and we felt it. Obviously, we didn't expect to lose in 2018, but it happened. But to go back to Dominique Anglade, so she's not the one that brought this. She inherited this. And I know that you're supporting her. What do you think is happening in caucus right now? Do you think, because, they came out and like, where everyone's behind us, and obviously that's the lines that Dominique Anglade is pushing as well. I'm not so sure that it's that peachy behind the scenes.
And it's possibly not.
Yeah.
It very possibly, it might not be the case. I'm not there anymore to confirm anything, but at the end of the day, she needs to, or not just herself, but I mean herself and the people that supported me. Obviously, they need to gather support from the whole caucus, but it's not just the caucus. I was president of the party, so what she needs to also focus on is to make sure that all the different riding associations have a contact with her, the different party members, that they understand what's her vision, what she tried to implement for this particular election, and what's her vision going forward, and how she intends to reconnect or rebuild the party from the ground up to be able to prepare itself for the next election. And that's where I offered my support. I make this particular distinction, George. I offered my support for her to do that job until le vote de confiance. And And I wish her, and I want her, and I wish that she can continue forward. But at the end of the day, it's going to be to the party members to decide. And that's the challenge that she has in front of her.
I can tell you one thing for sure, and I know there's a lot of things on the table right now that she has to think about. In the past, if I base myself on things that were happening in the past, as soon as the elections were done within a couple of weeks, the riding association presidents were immediately called in. There was this kind of exchange that would happen. Nothing's happened so far. In fact, there haven't even been regional meetings.
It's starting.
You know what I mean? So I hope it's gonna. I hope it's gonna take off. I don't know how close you were to the ground. Obviously, you had a whole campaign to worry about, so you were focusing a lot on your own things. I had had a lot of conversations with a lot of associations and presidents and other members. People aren't happy, and I have a feeling that they know. The people, whether people at the party or people close to Dominique Anglade, know. I don't know if she's trying to buy time. I don't know if, and I hope sincerely that they're not willingly trying to avoid having these conversations. Because whether you like it or not, whether it's going to go well or not, you got to break that ice, man, and you just have to confront. And I'm suspecting that it's probably not going to go as nicely. There's a lot of negativity. And there's a lot of people that just disconnected. The worry on the ground, and I hope people are listening to this in case they don't know it yet, is that the big question marks that exist in our association, in the one that I'm president of, and in others, is whether or not the damage that happened is irreparable. Like, are we even going to be able to go get those people back? The people that stayed home, or the people that said, you know what, fuck it, I'll give the Conservatives a chance, or you know what, at least Legault's in government and maybe we'll see something happen. Let me just give my support there. That's the big question mark. How do you even start by, it's a huge task, man. And, I have nothing against Dominique Anglade on a personal level. For me, the point that I've been trying to make is that at the end of the day, it comes down to leadership. And I know that you probably took over a boat that was slowly sinking, or at least putting in water somewhere, but it's still your responsibility, right? I mean, the ability to surround yourself with people that are capable of looking at these things, or advising you the proper way, or not making ridiculous mistakes like the ones we saw in the last 2-3 years. All that comes back to you as a leader. And at the end of the day, whether you accept it or not, I don't know. To me, it's a sign of weakness somewhere. And I'm not saying that to her personally. And, we have examples of her, even in her past life, where she's demonstrated the ability for her to be an effective leader. Maybe it didn't apply itself properly in politics. I don't know what the answer is. However, for me, it's an excuse to say, well, look, it's the people around us. We didn't have enough people at the party, or we didn't have enough volunteers. Yeah, but someone needs to take the shots here. And unfortunately, it comes back to the leader, because everyone's looking up to you. Everyone's like, okay, what do we do now? Well, sorry, we don't have volunteers. I don't know. I heard through the grapevine that even in her own riding, the last couple of days, they took people from everywhere to go help so that we can save ourselves from embarrassment in Saint-Henri-Saint-Anne.
Look, George, I mean, I can't dispute everything you're mentioning. I'm just going to say it in French.
Yeah.
Il y a une grosse remise en question qui doit être effectuée, c'est clair. Il faut se regarder dans le miroir. Et pas juste Dominique Anglade. Son entourage, le caucus, l'ancien caucus également, les institutions ou les structures à l'intérieur du parti. Il y a une modernisation qui doit être effectuée, qui doit continuer également. Il y a des grandes questions fondamentales qui doivent se poser aussi. C'est comment tenir ce parti unis à partir du moment où on a des valeurs qui sont très claires. Les valeurs, c'est le ciment de ce parti, mais en même temps, comment s'assurer de garder unis différents groupes de la population et la majorité francophone également. Comment s'assurer d'avoir un discours qui est cohérent face à ça. Puis également regarder l'avenir, comment se positionner à l'intérieur d'un échiquier politique où maintenant il y a 5 partis légitimes provinciaux. Est-ce qu'on va regarder les choses de façon plus pointue? Est-ce qu'on va essayer de plaire à tout le monde? C'est des questions légitimes qui doivent se poser. Et puis dans mon cas à moi, je soutiens Dominique, mais je suis avant tout un militant qui respecte sa constitution et les règlements du parti. Et elle va devoir faire face à un vote de confiance. Et elle doit regagner la confiance ou gagner la confiance du plus grand nombre de membres pour s'assurer d'avoir la légitimité nécessaire pour pouvoir continuer. Ça, c'est mon appui que je donne à Dominique, qui est mon ami et que je respecte énormément. J'ai aussi, je vais te le dire, j'ai aussi partagé mon opinion avec un autre ami, un collègue que j'estime beaucoup, Carlos Letao, qui, son nom circulait depuis un certain temps après l'élection, qui voulait peut-être se présenter à la présidence du parti. Et personnellement, moi, je l'ai découragé. Je l'ai découragé parce que, you might remember this, I became president against an ex-M&A minister of the Quebec Liberal Party, Alain Paquet. He lost in 2012, and he applied to become president of the party. Et le soutien que j'ai eu des militants à l'époque du comité exécutif was that volunteers, et il faut comprendre, il y a le caucus, il y a l'aile militante, puis il y a l'aile permanente. Et c'est 3 piliers qu'il faut toujours établir un équilibre. Et donc, pour moi, c'est important que les militants sentent qu'ils ont une voix forte à l'intérieur du parti pour justement exprimer soit cette frustration, soit la déception, soit la colère ou les questionnements qu'ils peuvent avoir. C'est important que le caucus s'exprime également, oui, de façon unie, comme ils l'ont fait, mais s'exprime. Mais le caucus n'a pas ascendance sur le parti. Et c'est là que, like I said, it's not just Dominique. La déconnexion entre le parti et les membres et son aile du caucus a commencé il y a 5-6 ans. Et c'est ça qu'il faut recoller. Et par la suite, une fois qu'on recolle nos structures, il faut avoir un discours qui est cohérent face à l'ensemble de la population pour être capable de reconnecter. Je crois que c'est possible. Je pense que oui, il y a eu un bris. I mean, let's face it. 8-9% within the French vote, il y a eu un bris.
It's horrible.
And it's horrible. And even with the anglophone vote or the allophone vote, il y a eu une déconnexion. Il faut faire ce constat-là. Maintenant, est-ce que ça peut être recollé? Oui, mais il y a un gros travail à faire à tous les niveaux.
So what does it say now? Parce que Carlos Letao, au moins de façon par intérim, il est le président.
Non. Carlos Letao he actually said it publicly. He's not running to become president of the party.
But temporarily he is. Parce que Linda Caron, right? Yes. Elle a été élue, donc on n'a pas de présidence. Moi, j'ai entendu que par intérim, ça sera Carlos Letao, le temps que le parti, I don't know what they're going to do, parce que le vice-président ne voulait pas assumer les responsabilités comme le dit la constitution du parti, les règlements du parti. So that's what I heard. I heard that Carlos Letao is now the interim president of the party. And it comes back to what you were saying. I agree 100% with what you said, by the way. And again, it befalls on Dominique Anglade. Is she keeping her people in control of certain things to control her fate? I don't know what the strategy is. I don't know. And maybe I'm just delusional. Maybe I'm thinking things that aren't true. But as much as we love Carlos, and I've said it many times, he's an exceptional man. I love that man. He did a fantastic job as a minister. I don't know. I mean, is he doing it out of the kindness of his heart because no one wants to assume the responsibility? And he's saying, you know what, guys, look, let me come in. People know me. I'll help also with the financial aspect of everything. Try to put things in order. The defeat obviously is monstrous. Dealing with the losses of important finances, having a guy like Carlos Letao may be a good thing. I don't know. But he was also very close to Dominique Anglade. So that's the other question now. When people found out that Carlos Letao is at least temporarily the president of the party, it doesn't reassure the members that initially were frustrated that, shit, where the fuck are we? You know what I mean? Like, we saw this close circle around Dominique Anglade being completely neglectful, and now we're seeing that kind of spill over into the party.
But look, in defense of Carlos, okay, and I spent part of my last weekend with some old political friends and to the defense of Carlos, he and I would say in the past 10 years, he was the member of caucus that was the most active member within la Commission Politique.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so I think he demonstrated that beyond his role as a member of the caucus or member of government, or
he was involved as a liberal militant. Yes,
exactly. So in that perspective, I think he gained a lot of respect from party members, not because of who Carlos Letao was for 4 years, Minister of Finance, but also because he demonstrated an honest interest about party life.
Yeah, the institution.
And the party institutions, exactly. So from that perspective, I think Carlos also mentioned publicly that he's not going to run. And I think today, we're Friday, October 21st, today is the last day of any possible candidate that wants to, je pense, déposer sa candidature to become a candidate for the presidency. And I don't know all the details, but I think if I look at how it went for myself, it was a process that lasted less than 4 weeks. Actually, last weekend, 10 years ago, I got elected as a president of the party. So I think it's going to happen very quickly. I don't.
So what happens if there's 0 people interested in the position?
No, there's names going around.
Oh, there are? Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, there's names going around. And I could repeat a name that came out publicly, Rafael Primo Ferraro, who was president.
What does that ring a bell? Who was he in the youth wing?
Well, many years ago.
Yes.
But up until recently, he was président de la commission juridique du parti.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
So he had a big role into not the election itself, but also how to support the party and the different candidates in their election process as well. And so, and obviously, as being président de la commission juridique, having a legal background, he also understands the importance of having to respect the Constitution and les règlements internes and the role of the party members and the caucus, et cetera, because it's going to be a fine line. It's going to be a difficult position for the new party president, having to respect whatever the leader will have to, the role that the leader will have to play within the party in preparing for le vote de confiance, the confidence vote. And also having a very, very independent and non-partisan position in that whole process.
You know, it's for me, obviously, it's going to be very interesting. It's a period of rebuilding, obviously, for the Liberal Party, and not just on an institutional level, even on a political level. I mean, we know a lot of people that are there. There's at least almost half that are new. So that's the other challenge as well. I mean, when you're looking at the Liberal Party now as an opposition, you're thinking, who has any significant experience to even take on this role as an opposition, right? I mean, you can count them probably in one hand, so there's what we said in the beginning, where you have all the new people coming in, the rookies that have to learn the ropes, right? And what's happening, and what's my responsibility, and how do I do this, and how do I do that, and what do I do in committee, and it's this unknown world for these individuals. But at the same time, they have to assume that important role in opposition, so they need to have that guidance. And I'm afraid that there isn't that much guidance. Of course, there's Dominique Anglade there. She has the experience. That's her role, basically, to make sure that her caucus is well prepared for this. But it's a tightrope, and they're walking on it. And I'm not so sure how stable things are.
Look, I think it's also up to the individuals, to the new MNAs, to actually do whatever is necessary for them to actually have a better understanding of what their role is, not just as a parliamentary, as a member of the National Assembly, their role as critic of opposition critic on different subjects, but also, especially before confidence vote, to have an understanding of what their role is within the party. Okay, because I experienced it, not just myself, but I saw some new colleagues that had no affiliation with the party before an election, became MNAs,
which is fine.
Because we always need new blood. We always need new ideas. We need an input, an exterior input as well. But it will be important for those new MNAs to actually
be involved,
and to reach out to the ex-MNAs as well. Like Kathleen Vell, like Carlos Letao is a great example, like many others that were there up until the election came up, and it's also going to be up to them to have that understanding of how the party works within, and what's the importance of the different institutions within the party.
Yeah, because the main message that was given to me was that the party needs to reconnect with us. We were left in the dark. And, you know, it's tough, especially like in my situation. I'm in what we call Northern riding. Northern riding, for those who don't know, is basically it's a riding that doesn't have an M&A to represent it. You know what I mean? So we have, you know, the Liberal Association there is represented by an M&A that's from another party. And they felt neglected. Obviously, there's no connection with the sitting M&A, which is normal because it's partisanship, right, that comes in the way. And they, you know, for the first time since 2007, when I got there, now they're kind of left. They feel hopeless. They're like, okay, who's here for us now? Because before, okay, we had our M&A. We knew where the office was. We picked up the phone, or there were events. We always saw each other. Now that reality isn't there. So they turn to the party, and there's nobody there for them. So that's, I think, where the main focus needs to happen. And, you know, I keep going back to things that I took away and learned from Jean Charest. And again, this is not to say that he was perfect, because we can both say that he wasn't. He was far from being perfect. I think even he himself will say that he's far from perfect. But one thing that I've always taken away from him is that there was this rule of thumb that the riding offices are priority. And we felt it. It was you get a call from a riding office, you drop what you're doing, and there was never a time where, as a staffer, when we called any cabinet minister's office for help, that we didn't get a call back within half an hour.
Yeah, agent de liaison.
You know what I mean? But forget the l'agent de liaison. It was a general call that was done across the board, and you get a call from any writing office, you get to it immediately. Like there was never, never more than, okay, whatever, half an hour, maybe I'm exaggerating, but the call would come in almost immediately. You had an answer. What do you need, man? What can I help you with? Okay, I'll get to it. Thank you. Like right away.
I agree, George. But that's what I'm saying. 2015, 2016. I saw it back in my first mandate. I saw staffers that never had a membership card of the party. You know, look, it would have never happened under Mr. Charest. Never happened. You know, my staff calling a cabinet and they're saying, "Okay, we'll call you back," and they were treating let's say les bureaux de députés gouvernementaux the same way that they were treating the oppositions. I mean, yes, there has to be an equal service, but at one point you also have to.
Yeah, you get priority, man, to you guys.
Exactly. So I'm telling you, it never sunk in this whole thing, and that's where I think, you know, agent liaison was a very important role. Yes, all the staffers of all the cabinets. So when I come back to your question, your initial comment about writing associations, there's stuff that can be done, of course, and the party. The head office, the existing M&As, the ex-M&As, we all have a word to say. We all have a part to say. Look, I might surprise you with this. Mr. Charest called me the day of the election. Okay, it was like 6 o'clock. I was home. J'ai fait le tour de tous les bureaux de vote the whole day with my son. We came back home. We had dinner, and I was resting home, and it was like 6:37, and I get a phone call. Mr. Charest, bon, Saul, comment ça va? You know, comment tu te sens? And puis,
what a fantastic guy, man. Honestly, say whatever you want. Nobody does this, man. Nobody does this.
But listen to the whole story. Yeah. So I tell him, puis he asked me, how do you feel? What's your feeling? And I'm like, Monsieur Charest, je sais pas. Regardez, j'ai tout donné. Au moins, je sens que j'ai vraiment tout mis sur la table. You know, 16 000 portes où on a cogné, puis des appels, whatever. But j'ai dit, je sais pas. Je pense que mon BVA, ça aurait peut-être pu mieux aller, mais mon jour J, je pense que j'ai des bonnes chances, etc. Okay, election night comes up. We know the results. The next day was like, I went to the Mont Royal to work out. You know, it was like 3 hours.
Let some steam out.
Exactly. And I'm in my car. I'm on my way back. It's like 4 o'clock. I get another call. Numéro confidentiel. Monsieur Charest again.
Yeah.
Bon, Saul, comment tu te sens? you know, and this and that. Puis, and I said something to him, and I think it surprised him. J'ai dit, Monsieur Charest, vous savez quoi? Je sais que vous et moi, on se connaît. Vous m'avez vu arriver au parti back in 2005. Puis j'ai dit, je veux quand même être là pour rebâtir le parti. Il me dit, en tout cas, je te trouve courageux, Saul. J'ai dit, yes. Mais vous savez quoi, Monsieur Charest, ce parti m'a donné tellement d'opportunités, m'a fait vivre tellement de choses que c'est la moindre des choses que je reste connecté. I'm not going to be une belle-mère. Like, mais je ne serai pas un gérant d'estrade non plus, where I'm just going to point fingers and not do it. No, I want to contribute in the best way possible, because I think I still did some stuff that could help the current M&As or the party, etc. And there's stuff that can be done. Je pense qu'il y a moyen de refaire revivre ce parti de la base à travers des gestes, à travers des actions. Oui, on n'aura pas les mêmes ressources. We won't have, you know, les gros conseils généraux like we used to have. But I think we can still manage to do something. Yeah. And it could start from the bottom, but also has to start within the caucus.
That's amazing, man. I'm thinking, you know, if he did the same thing with others, but then I'm trying to think who was there while he was there, right? And there's probably not that many. No, maybe probably called Filomena.
No, he called Philo. He
probably Marc Tanguay.
No, he called Isabelle for sure.
Isabelle Melançon, yeah, for sure.
Isabelle Melançon for sure. Maryse Gaudreau.
Maryse, yes.
You know, Maryse for sure, and I'm sure he called a lot more people that. But that's the great thing about Mr. Charest. I don't know about you, but I get a Christmas card from Mr. Charest every year.
I still do.
Every year. I mean, and so, you know, like you said, he might not be perfect, but he did a lot of great things.
There's so many stories, man. Look, this guy, the charisma that this guy has, and it's a case study. Like, I think everyone going into politics, and again, maybe we're biased because we came into politics under his leadership. Maybe, I don't know.
We are,
but for sure we are. But still, like, even if you think of it from the most objective way, in the most objective way possible, when you see this guy conducting himself in politics, maybe not now. I mean, you know, unfortunately for him, it was a very bad leadership run for the Conservative Party of Canada, but when I go back and I see this guy and how he was during his time as premier, dude, I'll tell you a story. There was a competition once. It was a membership drive. So, and for those listening, this is how active the fucking party was back then. They reach out, and obviously it was regional. They can't do it across the part of the province. So they're like, okay, for the region of Montreal, the competition, whoever signs up the most members will get Jean Charest to their event. We're like, fuck yeah, you know what I mean, dude. We signed. I think there was like 1,500 members. We signed. It was everyone. Like that boost in membership probably was the most the party ever got, and we were neck and neck with Philo's riding back in the day, and we won. And we got Jean Charest. It was our annual brunch, and already that annual brunch, it was the most popular event we did. We were normally in the 350, like a lot of people. Yeah. And the Premier's office is telling us, look, anything can happen, you know, like, we don't want you to tell your people, but we don't want you not to tell them either that he's coming. So figure out a way to kind of maybe slip in that, you know, there may be a big surprise, you know, I don't know. So we didn't know until like 24 hours before. We didn't know. So we're inviting people, and the word gets out. We're like, no, fuck it. Who cares? We'll tell them that the Premier is coming. And if he doesn't come, it's better for us to explain that something came up than not have enough people. There must have been like 450. Like we were above capacity. Like if the cops walked in there, they would have locked it up. Like we were above capacity. People were standing. The guy walks in with his wife. It took, without exaggeration, about 40 minutes, 45 minutes for him. From the minute he came in, he went all around. Dude, we're talking about 450 people. Shaking hands, taking pictures, you know, the music they had on loop, his little jingle, you know. Then the guy went, it took 45 minutes, and then we introduce him, he comes up on stage, blah, blah, blah. It was a beautiful event. Still today, people come up to me and they're like, hey, my friend, how's my friend Jean Charest doing?
That's crazy.
He had never met these people in his life. The impact he had on them that one time was so significant that people not only still remember, but they felt so attached to the guy.
That's crazy.
So attached to the guy.
Look, George, you might remember two things that happened to me. I don't know if you were in the party in 2006.
No, I wasn't there yet. Yeah.
Okay, I did. I was within the party. I was in the party for like less than a year, and this was the the year before going to the general election 2007. And what happens within the parties, they always do des colloques. And they had a colloque thématique sur la diversité puis l'immigration. And it was at l'école Georges Vanier in Laurier, Laurier-Dorion.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I was co-president with Yasmine Aloul. And Monsieur Charest wasn't supposed to come. Okay. It was c'était le 17e colloque. We had done everyone in all the different regions. C'était le 17e. So at the last minute, maybe 2 days before, the party says, okay, Monsieur Charest is going to come. I'm telling you, George, when he came in and we were in the auditorium of the school, it was like a rock star came in. People, like, we had to stop the whole presentation for like a good 20 minutes so that he could actually go to his seat and sit. People were just like, and the other story I have with him is what happened is, that was 2006. Then it was 2007, we did a barbecue at Jarry Park.
In Jarry Park, I remember
this.
Yeah, that was there.
And the same with Monsieur Charest back then. So, no, Monsieur Charest, last story I have is one of my staffers actually working with me until this election. 2017, she was working with me. She worked on 2 years, 2016, 2000. And she wasn't a big fan of the Quebec World Party or actually Monsieur Charest because of she was a student back in 2012, et cetera, et cetera. So, I tell her, I said, well, look, we have a délégation parce que c'était le congrès du 150e.
Oh, I remember that one.
Okay, that was 5 years ago, okay? And I said, why don't you come on board, Kelly? I said, let's go with party members and let's go représenter Laval-des-Rapides, you know? Okay, she sits down. We're in dans la salle, and then Mr. Charest was making a speech. And until that point, she had never heard Mr. Charest
publicly,
publicly, you know? So she's sitting next to me, and I'm just looking at her. And as Monsieur Charest starts, and you see son talent, his talent about public speaking, of taking your emotions going high and then slowing his speech,
manipulating your feelings, man. Yeah.
And then after that, I asked her. I said, how do you feel now about Mr. Charest? She goes, no, he's a great public speaker.
Fired up.
It's incredible. And he would light up also in election campaigns, you know. It was a different Charest. The same way that Legault was different in election time.
In the opposite way.
Mr. Charest was completely different. I mean,
he was an animal. He was a beast.
One more week in 2012, and we would have had government instead of being 54-50. We would have been the party would have been in power, you know. So no, Mr. Charest, I have the utmost respect and admiration for Mr. Charest. So having him calling me on October 3rd and then calling me back on October 4th.
Check in. Wow, that's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah. See, this is the stuff that trickles down. This is the stuff that you're going to say to me, like maybe your close circle, but eventually it's going to get out. And this is what existed before. And I know that parties renew themselves. There's people now in the party that weren't there, 10 years ago. They don't know how things were done. I remember coming in 2007 and having the people from the party up my ass. Like there was Patrick Gilles. This guy, whether you like him or not, he was up your ass. He's like, guys, this, He was always there every fucking week. Like the phone would ring. Hey, I got tired of talking to this guy, but he did his job. That was his job. His job was to be annoying and say, guys, let's go, get active, do it. Members, that, events, come on. The thing at Jarry Park, we're gonna bring the premier. Like they would go out of their way, man, to show you that, okay, like the party's there, so bring your members. Let's go. Let's do this, right? That got lost. And I don't know, maybe if it's the times, if it's this more modern way of doing politics where everything is on a screen now and you can watch these things from the comfort of your home rather than actually being there and witnessing it and shaking someone's hand and experiencing the whole atmosphere of doing politics and being in the public. I don't know if that has had an effect. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. I don't know. But we're not the only party.
No.
There's other parties as well, so they're bringing in hundreds and thousands of people. So why aren't we? So, I don't think we're alone in this time of change. Maybe the party hasn't evolved. I doubt that. Also, I mean, there's young kids, there's brilliant minds working at the party. They know much more than we do. So something is just not clicking, and I think that's something that people will need to look at and quickly. Because 4 years is gonna come and go like this, so and whatever happened this time around, the sad reality, Saul, is that it cannot reproduce itself again because what I told you before about whether or not the damage is irreparable, if we have another election like this one, then it's going to be permanent. Then forget it. I'll actually understand the people for not wanting to get involved further.
No, I get you. And this is where it's going to be a challenge, a very steep uphill challenge for the party, because on top of that, the finances are very different now.
Holy shit, yeah.
You know, when you're talking about close to $1 million a year less in terms of budget for the party, it makes a difference. That's a lot less staff. They're going to have to become a lot more efficient. I'm not saying that they were wasting money. No, I mean, but they'll have to. Unfortunately, they'll have to prioritize. But they will all have a say. And this is where I think, and that's what I said to Mr. Charest, you know, we all have a role to play into rebuilding this party. And it's not just to the staffers or to Dominique Anglade or you know.
I love how his answer was, "Oh man, you're courageous." It's as though he's already like abandoned ship, you know, like I mean, look, former leaders tend to not really keep their involvement active unless there's
he's very respectful.
Unless there's a particular event like the 150th where they brought him in. So he's doing what he has to do, but just to you know, it's obvious now that he thinks shit. The ship is sinking.
Well,
but it's obvious he's not the only one. Everyone side,
and we can't say different. I mean, the party's different today than 10 years ago when he lost the election. So it is a completely different picture. Can it be done? I think so. Will it be tough? Definitely. When you're talking about party members, I mean, most of the parties have a declining number of party members. Most of them. Okay. The only one that's the exception is the Conservative Party that came from.
Went up.
They went up. But most of the parties, they have a challenge because now also society is looking differently at political parties with a capital P, not just the Quebec Liberal Party in general. So we also need to reconsider how we approach people in general, what we ask them or what we expect party members to do within the party as well. And if we need to rebuild, we'll have to rebuild differently. I think that what you and I experienced 10, 15 years ago,
that's done.
It's going to be very different going forward. I think technology can help us in a way, but we cannot only depend on technology to run the party. We need to reconnect individuals.
It's people. Yeah, it's about people.
Individually.
Okay, let's close it up, man. You personally now, what's up? What's the next chapter? Obviously, you're relaxing. I get it. I've known a lot of people that have been through there, and they just wanna disconnect. You know, they wanna enjoy the calm a little bit around them. But yeah, like, what are you looking forward to? Like, what has changed? What are you appreciating more?
Yeah. Well, look, one thing's for sure. I want to be able to do something that I enjoy, that I feel like I can bring, that's challenging, that I can bring, an impact or have an impact. But also to make sure that whatever I do in whichever sector I'll go back into, that I'll find a balance. Not just stability, but a certain balance. But yeah, I'm someone very dynamic. I like to get involved. It's going to be tough to find that balance, but I'm not worried about myself. I was in the finance sector before going into politics. Would I go back? Maybe. I don't know. I'm open to different endeavors, different opportunities for sure. I'll see. We'll talk by the end of the winter. We'll have a talk maybe again, and I'll give you some feedback at that point.
Dude, it was so good to see you. I'm glad you're doing well, and I'm suspecting that we're gonna see much more of each other.
For sure, with pleasure, George.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, thanks.